Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the EEARSS Podcast, produced by Terrier TV and sponsored by Edna Wilson with Celebrate Real Estate. Celebrate Remax Aerospace. Miss Edna Wilson's pretty awesome.
Yep.
I hope she'll forgive me for butchering her. I've butchered it every time at this point.
If she doesn't forgive you, you're in a lot of trouble because you've got a lot of strikes against you.
This is true. Well, we end up talking about it an extra amount of time, so I think it makes up for it.
It does make up for it. We do then, it does segue into a nice little conversation about Edna and her business.
And then I usually just blame Cindy for it anyhow, so it's all good.
That's right. It is Cindy's fault.
Everything's Cindy's fault.
You know what? Everything's my fault.
Yeah,
I accept it.
All right, that's fair enough. So I feel like it's a nice opportunity to go ahead and start the podcast and discuss what we discussed about midway through the last one, and saying that the EEARSS Podcast, while not always about environmental things, that's not exactly our purpose behind the podcast. We're trying to give people, organizations, and causes a voice for what they're doing and what they're up to. And while our last one was an environmental organization, today isn't. Yeah. And it's not, again, the purpose is to kind of get the EEARSS name out there and be able to let people talk about things they're up to.
Right. We're about the community, not just exclusively the environment.
Oh, that was very nice, Bill.
Thank you.
And you know what? My argument is always that agencies like what we have today that help people in the community, that's not entirely separate from our environment. Our environment is made up of, yes, the plants and the animals, but also the people.
The environment's what you make of it. Yeah, you're exactly right. And it's a community is an environment. Is basically what you're saying. Am I correct, Cindy?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, you're amazing. That's how that goes.
Thanks for saying it for me.
Yeah, she's always making things happen. All right, you ready to discuss our guest today?
Let's do it.
So today on the podcast, we are joined by the third Yount in the series. Were they all in season 2?
Yeah, I think so.
They might have all been in season 2. We were joined by Matt Yount, who was a previous Teacher of the Year here in Brevard County.
Right.
And then we were joined by his wife, Stacy Yount, who is a special needs teacher.
I think Stacy was on first, though.
She was.
She was first.
She was first. Okay, yep. She's a hearing impaired teacher.
Yep.
And Matt, former Teacher of the Year. And then now, today, we are joined by Richard Yount, Matt's younger brother, who runs the Boys and Girls Club. He's the Senior Development Officer for the Boys and Girls Club of Central Florida.
Boys and Girls Clubs.
Clubs.
Come on, I read the email. I know how it goes.
I did. I butchered? I said club instead of clubs?
Yes.
I didn't make it plural.
You guys are doing great. No,
I'm trying.
I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for
Sounds
being
like
here, buddy.
season 2 is crushing it.
We're doing pretty dang good.
Oh yeah, we're pretty full of Younts, that's for sure.
We are full of Younts. Yeah, so it's been an ongoing joke with the Yount family that when one of them does something, next thing you know, they're all flipping involved. It's like it's not one of them; they take it over. Like there might be 10 people in this little organization, or whatever it might be. Like maybe it's fantasy football, and next thing you know, this started off with one Yount, and next thing you know, there's 7 Younts of the 10 people. So it's just what they do. They just take things over. It's just how it works.
Well, there we go.
Well, hey, we've got some good folks in our lives who push us in the right direction, and lucky to have my older brother Matt as somebody who I looked up to for a long time, and brought me down to the area because I'm an out-of-towner originally. So.
Yep, Matt's been a blessing to a lot of people, a lot of students, and a lot of people, myself included as well. So, tell us a little bit about the Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Florida, what it means to be a Senior Development Officer, and what you're up to these days, bub.
Sure. Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it again for the opportunity to be here. So Boys and Girls Clubs, we're an after-school and summer program. We work, essentially with at-risk youth. We put our clubs in communities, where our resources and the programming that we offer are needed most. So essentially, we have, different programs that we offer that range from focused on academic success, good character and citizenship, and healthy lifestyles. On paper, our focus is making sure that young people who enter our program, are able to have the tools and opportunities that they need to be able to reach their full potential. It's challenging for young people all over the world, all over the community, and our hope is that, if they're provided with the love and support and guidance of people who care about them, they're given the opportunity to be in a safe, positive environment, and they're filled with lessons and motivation, and again are pushed in the right direction to stay on the right track so they can reach their goals. That's what our hope is as an organization. So we see kids from 6 to 18. So we start working with kids when they enter elementary school, and they have the opportunity to continue through our program until they graduate. And our hope again is that they'll leave our program with a plan for their future, which could be anything from going to college, a typical 4-year institution, going to a community college, getting a certification, or going to vocational school, or joining the military. So, we want them to have a plan for what the next step is for them, because as you and adults and most people know, if you don't have a plan, it's really easy to get lost in the shuffle. So essentially, it's guidance, it's mentorship, it's fun. It's up to us to make sure that the program is compelling enough for the kids to want to come back, because we all know that there's a lot of distractions in the world where people can get off track, or young people can get off track. So really we just try to pour into our kids and make sure that they've got the opportunities and support they need to be successful.
So you've been with this organization now for how long?
I've been with Boys and Girls Clubs. It was 10 years in October last year.
That's amazing, man. So tell us a little bit about you and your journey from starting off with the Boys and Girls Clubs to where you are now with it.
Sure. Yeah. So I've 10 years, about half of that was kind of more on the operational side. So I moved down to Florida from Virginia. I grew up in Northern Virginia and came down here because I wanted to be a teacher. I played a little bit of football in college. And then, once I came down here and moved to town, I said, hey, I want to be a football coach. I started becoming a substitute teacher, and then found a part-time job at the Boys and Girls Club, which at the time I knew nothing about. I looked it up online, and I saw the intention and focus of it was to work with at-risk youth. I was, intrigued, very much so by the opportunity of, being able to work with young people who could benefit from mentorship and people who cared about them. I was really fortunate to have, and I mean, my family, Frank, it's caring people who are supportive and push you to things that would be enjoyable for you, in your life, but also, so you can reach your goals. And by no means, neither of my parents graduated from college. We didn't have everything we ever needed in the world, but, I'm grateful to have had good leadership as far as learning right from wrong and treating people the right way. And, I started working at the Boys and Girls Club part-time. After about a year and a half, I became a service director, so a club director of our club in Melbourne, down here in Florida, which was in the middle of a public housing development. It's called the Temple Terrace Community, which is off of Aurora, over Aurora and Wickham Road. And really, it was 3 or 4 of the best years of my life, to be quite frank with you. Quite frank.
That's the second time in 2 episodes.
Second time, yeah.
Wow. Just a pleasure to work with really good kids who enjoyed coming to the club, and we had a really great culture of people who, just leaned into what the kids wanted to learn about, and made sure that they knew that we were here for them, and would go to at length to make sure that they had the support they needed. So for the last 5 years, I've switched over to a development role, so resource development. So now I work with our board of directors. I work with connecting community to our club, which ranges from fundraising to volunteer opportunities to corporate engagement, and various things that help make sure that we can keep the lights on and the doors open for our kids.
Now, speaking of that, the idea that popped into my head, lights on and the doors open. Do you guys own your own facilities, or are you in cooperation with other people? How are you doing that?
Yeah, great question, Bill. So we've got 40 clubs in 6 counties. So each club is a little different and has their own circumstances. So the club that I started working with in Melbourne is essentially it's a small facility located in the middle of a public housing development. So it's owned by the local HUD and is given, or we have the ability to run that program there. So we don't own that facility. In contrast to that, we have another facility that opened up maybe in 2016, 2017 in Cocoa. We own that facility. It's off of Dixon Road and Route 1, 2 stories, has the ability to serve about 100, 120 kids there. So it really depends on the facility. We have a few what we call flagship clubs across our organization. We're actually one of the biggest Boys and Girls Clubs organizations in the country. So we're really grateful that we have this community support that we do, and also the leadership team that's gotten us to this point. But, we have some really big facilities that serve a lot of kids. We're grateful that we're able to make the impact we do. And some of those are, again, ones that we own, and some are in partnership with either, like we have a big partnership with Orange County Public Schools. So we have maybe 13 or 14 programs in middle schools. We call it our after school zone, where we're able to serve a lot of teens there. And, again, various communities have different circumstances.
So what kind of stories have you seen kids go through, and has your organization, since you've been with it, has there been any like kids that really you saw this make a huge difference in their life while they were with you? Like maybe one or two you can think of specifically that you go, okay, this group, our group doing this and having these after school activities kept this kid specifically, out of trouble, or, focused on the right things, or maybe to college when he wasn't expecting it, or.
Yeah. I'm happy to share some stories, Frank. I'm really blessed to have a lot of wonderful stories with some great kids who, when I talk about my experience in the club with the kids, it's really just it was such an eye-opening experience to work with such young people that have so much potential, and come from some really significant challenges. And, when I first came to the club, there was a couple kids that I'd love to share with you about, but one in particular, when I first started working there, I was the teen coordinator. So I worked with the teenagers. Mind you, I'm 22 years old at the time I got this job, so I'm just figuring out what it means to be an adult myself. But there's this young man who is 16 at the time, 16 or 17, and maybe sophomore, junior in high school. And I'm coming in trying to figure my way around, how do I build trust and provide quality guidance. And young man comes from a circumstance where he had two younger siblings at the club. They all lived with their father, and his mother died in a car accident when he was younger. And his two half siblings, their mother died of a drug overdose when they were sleeping in the room next door, which was probably 2 years prior to my meeting him and coming to work at the Boys and Girls Club. So by the time I got here, he was, already committed. He was making the sacrifices, coming in volunteering. He was, good kid doing the right things, just trying to get to those last few steps of junior year, senior year. And, really it was, just me being the guy that was kind of like, hey, I'm here for you. I came in every day, and, we'd stay open late for him, finish his homework. They didn't have some resources at home, so, he could use our technology in the teen center. We would do like field trips to his school to, go watch his basketball games. He was on the varsity basketball team at O'Galley High School. And just like one of these kids who was a rock star kid but didn't have a lot of support at home, so he made a commitment to my supervisor at the time that he said, I'm going to keep coming back to the club because I want to get a scholarship and I want to go to college. And, my supervisor, before I became the service director, says, you make that commitment to me, I'm going to make the commitment to you that we'll get you the scholarship. She said that in full faith that we could come through, but there really wasn't necessarily a roadmap internally in the organization to be able to fulfill that promise. But we knew that we would get the work done to get it from outside resources. All that to say, I became service director, which was incredible. I continued to work with this young man. We had the opportunity to get some funding to get him to go tour some colleges. I mentioned he was doing really good and on the right track. So, he got accepted to some schools. We took him to one college, and it was, him and I, we had a hotel, and I reached out to some professors and some different things like that to kind of get the full experience. And while we were getting ready to go out to like one of the college bars, just, to go get lunch or whatever, after we did the tour, maybe 2 weeks prior to this, I had gotten the news from our organization. We filled out an application for him to get a full scholarship from the Boys and Girls Club organization. There was a donor, who wanted to stay anonymous and wanted to create this scholarship. And we put in the application without him knowing, and he got the scholarship. So talk about just awesome moments for me. You know, I was so proud of him. He put in the work, he earned the scholarship, but we were just really happy for him. But we went to this tour at the school. You know, we're getting changed, getting ready to go out and put a nail in this thing. Like, okay, this is where you're going to go, right? And I'm going to tell him about the scholarship. He gets a call from his younger sister who's here in Florida. And we're out of town at the school. And she shared that his father had been arrested for drug dealing, and he got in a shootout with the police. So, you know, he's as far away as he's ever been from home, and, you know, he's dealing with his family falling apart, right? You know, so to be in that moment with him, going through that hardship, and you know, just to kind of tell him, like, you know, this isn't what you are, you know, this is not what your name will be remembered for because of the great things that you'll be able to accomplish. And you know, he ended up going to school, graduating, and you know, is in town here, and, you know, has a good job, and is doing the right things. So he's a good example of, you know, that stick-to-itedness that, you know, you want out of a young person, especially when, you know, they have some things stacked against them. And I was just grateful to be a part of it. I mean, he's an awesome kid, but, you know, one of many that I'm proud to have had a relationship with, who came out of the club and are doing good things.
Imagine that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, man. Some of my highlights of my life have been at the Boys and Girls Club, and I'm really blessed to be able to work for an organization where I can feel like I can make a difference.
That's great. So explain to
If
us.
you don't know
sorry.
this already, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think you need to hear this. If you don't hear it enough, I can't tell you how amazing the work is that your agency does. For a lot of these kids, you are it. You are the only people that are showing them that there's something more, that somebody believes in them.
Thanks, Cindy. That means a lot. Yeah, we talk about this from time to time at the club, that some of our kids are in our buildings with our staff people more than they're home. You know, like we're, especially during the summer months, you know, we're open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Kids come in, they get breakfast, lunch, and supper. You know, they're there for full days. You know, they go home and sometimes play around outside before it gets dark, and then, you know, they go to sleep, come right back to the club. So we totally understand the responsibility that we have, you know, with the amount of time that we spend with these young people. So I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, y'all's influence on the youth in every community you're in, it's tremendous.
Oh yeah,
Tremendous
to have that resource.
So, are there any kind of programs that you guys have going on here in Central Florida that you guys want to specifically talk about?
We've got a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, I'm always impressed with the things that our kids are doing. You know, we've got something that we're really focused on as an organization, is, you know, our academic success is the priority for us, right? We want our kids to make sure they're caught up to speed and able to take on the world after that. So there's some things we're doing in the literacy space, which, you know, we've gotten hit as a community, and I say community, it's, you know, all across the world probably, but you know, the pandemic was a challenge for a lot of people. It was specifically a challenge for low-income kids and low-income families. So we've seen that literacy scores have taken a hit, and we find ourselves in a position to try to take the mantle and say, hey, this is something we should really be focused on. So, you know, we've done a couple things, including adding some people to our leadership team, adding some people in the clubs who are focused on literacy for youth and for teens, to make sure that, you know, they have the support they need, and you know, there's people in their lives that are pushing them towards being proficient in these areas. Beyond that, our arts is something that we're really focused on too. You know, so I say this is, you know, it's important for us to have kids coming in the club. You know, if there's young people that are hearing this and you're passionate about music, or you're passionate about dance, or you're passionate about fine arts, you know, these are things that we offer in our club. So it's sometimes difficult for young people to get access to these types of programs, particularly those young people who live in communities where we work. You know, so if that's something that's interesting to you, you know, pop in to your Boys and Girls Club. We got 3 here in Brevard County. There's one in Titusville, about 1.5 miles from here. There's another in Cocoa, which I mentioned, and the one I used to work at in Melbourne. So feel free to come in, you know, find something that you can grab a hold of, and you'll meet somebody who cares about you and wants the best for you.
What's y'all's website?
Our website's www.bgccf.org. That's Boy Girl Club Central Florida, bgccf.org.
Okay.
You can find all kinds of stuff in there about our programs, about how to get in touch with us, about ways that you can volunteer if you'd like to become a volunteer and come in and be a part of the work we're doing, and how you can be supportive if you want to make a donation.
That's amazing, buddy. I know, when you joined this 10 years ago, I remember hearing when you first came down here, your brother telling me that you joined the Boys and Girls Clubs, and I went, okay. I'm like, you know what? I think that's Richard's jam. And I imagine at the time you probably didn't think you were going to make a career out of it, but it's becoming a career for you, buddy, and you're blowing it up. It's awesome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I love it. I'm grateful to do work that I feel is important. I'm even more grateful to work with people who share a similar mindset and are good people to work with. And yeah, I mean, we're doing good things every single day, and it's something new every day too. So it keeps me on my toes. We've talked about
it a lot here. One, that some of the people that are the best in their field have seen things from many different directions on the way up. And two, it seems like a lot of people that are very successful are either previous coaches or previous players of sports.
Yes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So is there something maybe you brought from the William and Mary football field, or coaching growing up that you've brought to your work now?
So I guess a couple things. So first thing I'll say is, I was like a zero stat guy. I played my freshman year, and I got cut after my freshman year. After that, I started doing some internships, physical therapy, and sports medicine, helping around with the team. So I kind of stayed involved. So two things is, one, definitely hard work. It is hard work to manage a full course load, and then get up in the morning to watch film and do team meetings and go to practice. Like, that was tough for sure. The second thing, I'll say is that what it taught me is, I guess I would say is, opportunities come every once in a while, and if there are young people like that I'm working with, so like I took that experience for me, and I see these young people who are just full of potential, like I shared, and I want them to know, like, now's the time. It's your opportunity to take this world, by the horns, and go become the best you that you can be, because you may not have a second chance at it. So some of those things that I learned, obviously hard work pays off and all that stuff, but just trying to use that as fuel to be inspiration to the young people I work with.
That's great, buddy. So I gave you a little bit of homework.
Some homework.
Yep, I gave you some homework.
All right, I got some numbers.
All right, Cindy's up on this one. I think it's time for her time to belly up at the bar.
This is Cindy's time to shine.
Yep, Cindy's been struggling for a couple, so it's her time to see if she can blow this up.
All right, let's see how I did. These aren't so fun. I'm sorry. I don't know if I should have made these more fun.
I don't think trivia has to be fun.
Nah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, it's about winning. It's not about fun.
It's about winning. All right. So the first one. Gosh, that's a bad one to start with. All right, first one. We're gonna start with. What percentage of Florida third graders are reading at grade level?
Oh.
You're the teacher, Bill.
40%.
Yeah, I would go
even.
with 40%. Yeah.
I would say slightly higher, but not by a whole lot.
It is slightly higher. It's 52% are reading at grade level. So they do testing, as you guys know. You're in the school system, and if I guess it's like 1 through 5. 5 is mastery, 4 is proficient, 3 is satisfactory. It's only 25% that are at the mastery or proficient level, but 52% are at grade level. So we got half our kids around here that aren't reading at the level at which they should be.
Right.
So we find that as a problem at Boys and Girls Clubs. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the work that we're doing in the youth literacy space. So that's why I shared that one. But
for sure,
a lot of that we've seen some spikes. I think if you look back at data in the last 5 years, those numbers improved a little bit, and then we're kind of back to where we were in like 2017. So I think the hope is that we'll kind of get back towards some spaces that we might have been in 2019 as we separate from the hardship that came from the pandemic with a lot of the kids in school.
Is that what that's contributed to? I mean, is that
what
you think
it has changed so much with just the students' attitudes and think about like when you had a summer vacation and you came back and how much that you had lost just in the 2 months that you were out summer vacation.
If you weren't keeping track of it, yeah, for
Right,
sure. Yeah.
Right. And multiply that by not being out of school for, 4 or 5 months, and, then being allowed to possibly take your classes from home, which may or may not have gone real well.
That's funny. Me and you and Cindy have talked about so many times, and with people on here, the effect it had on organizations and businesses. But sometimes I think that what happened to students during that time kind of gets lost on everybody.
We're in danger of losing a group of them. We
Mhm.
really are. I mean, it's right now we've got there's a segment of the high school population that's looking for a test score to graduate. And
Wow.
and it's a pretty big number. And we've always had a smaller number, and it just seems bigger now. It seems bigger.
Yikes.
Yeah, and there's
That's a lot.
Yeah, and it is a lot, and it's even more drastic when you break it down into income levels and
Right.
and racial groups, and it's something that you're probably familiar with, Bill, but they call it the summer slide. So it's something we actually work on at Boys and Girls Clubs. We have a program called Summer Brain Gain. So we're trying to make sure that the kids who are in our clubs are constantly involved in academics, even though it's not necessarily just sitting working on multiplication tables, but we're trying to make it fun, but keeping educational content in front of them in the months when they're out of school.
Right. Now during the pandemic, you guys just shut down, right?
There was 3 months we were shut down totally and completely. But during some of that span, we were doing virtual programming. We were doing some different things to keep in touch with our families and support them in the ways that they needed to. And then after 3 months, so this would have been like June 2020, we opened back up. But we drastically decreased the number of children we were serving. We were originally doing 20 kids to one staff person. CDC, if you remember, came out with like 10 in a room. So we were doing 9 students to one staff person. So that was difficult for us. Not only have we never closed our doors, we've been around for 78 years, and we'd never closed our doors or stopped services. So that was challenging itself. But then again, having to go back to some families who wanted to be in the club and utilize our services, and we had to tell some that unfortunately we can only take the kids who were coming the most, utilizing the services the most. So yeah, difficult time for us, and we're still, like we've talked about, trying to climb our way out in a couple different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Hit us with the next one, buddy.
All right, we're gonna go.
That's some good information, though.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
sure.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think you didn't give yourself enough credit. That was a great question. That was a great question.
Thanks. I appreciate
Any
that.
question that can lead to more conversation is always a great question.
Right. Absolutely.
That's where it's at, buddy.
William and Mary taught me how to do homework, I guess. All right, so another bummer of a question. Percentage of high school students reported feeling persistently sad or hopeless in 2021.
63%.
I'm going to say 50. I'd hope it's less, but dear goodness
I'll go
gracious.
to 40. I'll say it. Yeah. I'll say 40.
It is 44%. So nearly
Wow.
half
Okay.
of high school students reported feeling persistently sad or hopeless in 2021, which is a 40% increase since 2009. And 1 in 6 reported making a suicide plan in the past year. Heavy.
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
Wow.
That
but-
is heavy.
Young people are challenged emotionally right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask yourselves why that might be.
How do you approach that from your position?
So we're constantly in conversations, with the young people that we work with. And, we hear stories and circumstances like I just shared with you about the young man who I was working with. And to be really honest, we aren't, you need a professional, somebody who works in social services or as a therapist to be able to work with young people who are dealing with the type of trauma like I just shared with you. So first and foremost, there's training that we're doing for our staff to make sure we're most prepared we can be without having the proper licensing to be a professional counselor, but most prepared we can be to be able to have those conversations. We know how to redirect or who we need to bring into these conversations if there's something we hear that's going on, which includes everything from counselors to referrals to therapists to getting in touch with DCF if there's something that needs to happen on that side of things. But beyond that, we're seeking partnerships with different people in the community. We do have one kind of pilot program that we have as an organization where we have a counselor come in who is specialized in this space to be able to set up appointments with young people that we hear that there are challenging things going on at home. So there's a variety of things that we're trying to do. It's one of the things that's a focus for us, but it's a constant climb, to get to where we want to be.
All right.
Next one.
Yes, sir.
All right. Oh, geez.
Goodness
I'm
gracious,
sorry.
man. There's sometimes you have a basic understanding of an organization, and then when you really start to get into the detailed conversation about everything they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
you realize, holy moly, man, that's
Yeah.
some serious heavy
a lot
lifting
of stuff
going
to
on.
deal with.
That is
Yep.
some serious heavy lifting going on. So, yeah.
For those of us that are listening that might be involved with agencies that could partner, if an agency does want to partner, who is the contact person?
You can reach out to me, and I'm sure we can share the information, maybe the notes of the podcast or something
For
like
sure.
that, to get in touch.
Yep, for sure.
And I've got a
Perfect.
great colleague, my counterpart out here in Brevard County. Her name is Erin Harvey, and she does really great work in the community. So she may be somebody I put you in touch with as well.
Okay, that's great.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll make sure we
Thank you,
include
Cindy.
that when it comes down
Appreciate
to it.
All right. Number of children. So how many percentage of children in Florida are living below the federal poverty line?
60%.
I think that's a fair guess.
Go 40.
All right. So this one's kind of a trick question. All right, guys. So it is 17% of children in Florida who are
Okay.
living below the federal poverty line. I say it's a trick question because this was a threshold that was created in the 1960s. And you hear that number and you say, okay, 17%. That means, okay, 17% of kids, which is still a lot. I mean, that's
Right. Oh, yeah.
yeah, almost 2 out of 10 kids that you would see in a classroom are dealing with financial hardship at home. And then where does that lead? That leads to social, emotional, challenges. That leads to, health issues. That leads to academic success challenges. There's all kind of things if you don't have resources at home. But it's an outdated figure. It's not a localized number, and it doesn't take into account, local expenses, different things that a family in a particular community might be challenged. So the threshold for 4 children, a family of 4, is like $27,000, and that's the same in New York City as it is in Brevard County. So it's not really a fair number to look at, right? So there's another figure that came out. It's called ALICE, is the word that they use. It's an acronym. It stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. So these are families that have an employed person in the home. Usually they're in the service industry or retail industry, which we have a lot of that in the state of Florida. So if the question is next question, so this is my 4th stat. What percentage of children qualify as an ALICE family? So they're living below the ALICE thresholds.
I believe that number is close to 60%.
Yeah, it'd be 50 or 60, I'd say.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
It's 56. Yeah, so you guys are right
Yeah.
on. So this is a number that is a better reflection of, I think, what we think about when we say what does it mean to live in poverty? These are families or kids that don't know maybe where their next meal is coming from. That if there was some interruption in income to the family, it would have some significant impact to the resources and opportunities and things that they'd be able to do as a family. Living paycheck to paycheck. So nearly 60%. So 6 out of 10 kids are dealing with some financial stress in the household, which is just an indication to me of the need of a program like Boys and Girls Clubs or people to pour into children these days, at least.
Oh,
No
yeah.
doubt. If it wasn't for you guys, where'd they be getting it from?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, buddy. We got time for one more. Hit us with one more.
Last one.
These are really good, Richard.
Thanks, Frank. I appreciate it. So last one is related to our arts programming, which I talked a little bit about. So percentage of youth from low-income communities who participate in arts programming.
20%.
Yeah, that's
33%.
Good guesses. Yeah, 29. You guys are good. You guys are really getting close on all these. Yeah, 29%. And that includes
that's good though. I mean,
that,
it's,
I think
it's a
that's
good
pretty
number.
good.
Yeah,
29.
it's a good
That's
number.
pretty good. That does take into, I think so that includes like school, like arts programming, music, different things like that. These are the first.
Is that typical across the board, or is
um,
that lower than normal? I wonder. I wonder.
So when I look at that number, I'm by no means I enjoy drawing. I enjoy messing around with music. I'm by no means a talent in any way, but it's something for me that's always been, if I can kind of turn my brain off a little bit. I have the luxury of just doing something I enjoy, and finding peace for a moment doing something like the arts, right?
Yeah.
Passion, right? So 30% of low-income kids have access or are currently in these types of arts programming. Related to this, there's some statistics that show that if you're involved in arts programming, there is a correlation to, an increase in your academic achievement. You're 74% more likely to have a plan to go to college. And there's an 18% decrease in serious crime rate for students who participate in arts programming. So
Incredible.
if you have access to arts, you're doing less negative maybe activities, and you're planning for your future. You're committed to your own success. So that's why we believe as an organization it's important for young people, despite where you come from or what community you're in, to have access to something that is a benefit for you.
Richard, this has been amazing.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, buddy. Super thankful for you and your organization. Wow. So tell everybody one more time how to find you guys on social media or on the website.
Yeah, we have Facebook, Instagram. It's all Boys and Girls Clubs of Central Florida. Our website's www.bgccf.org. A lot of good information out there. A lot of great stuff going on in the clubs, and we'd love you guys to be a part of it.
Okay, and if people want to be associated with what you guys are doing in your organization, we'll make sure we have that tagged in all the details when we post this. So, buddy, really appreciate you. Super proud of you and what you're doing. Bill, I have a request that from now on we turn the bass up on my voice so I start sounding a little bit more like this.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll get right on that.
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, buddy, it's a blast. Thank you so much for you and what you do, and we appreciate you, Bubba.
My pleasure.
All right, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. Cindy, thank you for being virtually here. We super appreciate that, of course.
Thank you for putting up with my crazy schedule.
Hey, things happen, or sometimes you got to run, and it is what it is. We just we have a great thing going. It's a great thing going.
Absolutely.
Blessed to be doing it and having amazing people for guests, and it just continues. So, anyhow, thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate you guys being here, and we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.